year coaching, he was a boys coach at Madison County High School. So just weird how that
I got
came
you.
full circle.
Yeah, he's been around a while.
Yeah, he has. His son, I know his sons a little bit. They're really good players too.
Yeah.
We played against each other in the day.
Really?
Oh yeah.
I'm still I don't know how much you know about him, but so he got a principal's job, I think, right after coaching. He went from University of Virginia on the staff to coaching to being a principal at a middle school or something.
Yeah.
He should have been the next coach at UVA. They just weren't ready to hire a male, and I don't think still are ready to hire a male.
I got you.
When Debbie left, he should have been the next guy.
Yeah. All right, guys. I think we got most people. I'll let one or two come in if they come in late. But I appreciate you guys being here. It's always fun every week. For those of you who don't know, Chrissy, I'll let you introduce yourself. She's been around Virginia for a really long time, and Tamika Dudley's they put me on to her, and I'm so glad you guys connected. But she's had a great run. She's currently at Osborne Park, and Chrissy, meet everybody.
Thanks. Yeah, unfortunately, but fortunately, I have been around for a while, for 20 years now. Started my career at Forest Park, started that program in 2000, and then was there for 7 years. And after 7 years, tried the whole college thing, did that for a year. And the woman that I was coaching under she resigned or forced to resign. And I just had no desire to try and jump to another program or stay at the college level. Got back into high school at South County High School, and then got out of coaching for a few years. A couple of years, started training, got into that side of it, then became an assistant coach at OP. And then when Cliff left, Coach Gorham left, I took over the program, became a head coach again 3 years ago, I think. So I've been around for a little bit.
Awesome. Well, guys, I'll go ahead and get started. One of the things I want to talk about, and this is a selfish desire of mine, but I wanted to hear what some of you guys do with film and scouting. And my real reason behind that is I want to get a better understanding of where you guys fall between me feeling and our team feeling really, really prepared for a game versus us focusing too much on the other team and not enough on just our own selves. So, I know you guys probably do a lot of different things, but I would love to hear on that because, I'm thinking about shifting kind of how we do some things.
I'll start. Can you hear me okay?
We got you, I think.
Oh, God, these headphones are killing me, or earphones. The way I do it is, one thing is Kara's sister, my Leslie Basile, is my assistant. She loves scouting and she loves watching film. So what we've evolved into, where it used to be I would spend a couple hours watching the other team's film, is she watches the film maybe once or twice, however often she does it. And she does the scouting report, and we call it the preliminary scouting report. Then I'll watch some of the film, and then any changes I want to make, like who we're going to guard in the press, that type of stuff, I'll make those changes before we give it to the kids. But basically it is it's just enough because I feel like, and I know most of you probably feel the same way, I tend to feel like we're going to do our thing and see if the other team can stop us. And if they can't stop us, then I'm not too worried about it. So we really cover the basics in our scouting reports. Are not, I've seen some coaches that are 3-4 pages long. Ours is maybe the front and back of a page, or even the front of the page, depending on who we're playing. And it's just the basics of what we need to know. But again, the whole idea for us and our philosophy is make the other team stop us and see if they can do that first.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Coach.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
I probably watched very little game film during the regular season. Like Larry, I have one assistant who just loves to scout. So he'll scout wherever, I ask him to go. I really won't watch game film till maybe the playoffs, even if I watch it then, because I'm just going to see you in person. Mark's going to scout you, see it, and it is short and sweet and to the point. And I just, I've never watched a lot of film to scout. I'll watch my film to break us down after we play, but I don't watch a lot of film to scout.
I was gonna say, I'm kind of the opposite. I watch a lot of film and I try to pick out the things that are going to be important for us to kind of go over. But I've learned over the years to, especially down the stretch as you get later in the season, to really focus on my team more than the other team. I'm, kind of have that same mindset, but I do like to watch the film and try to figure out what other teams are doing based on the film.
Yeah, I think
my group's kind of a little different than like Larry or Franklin's or even Tamika's. We probably got about 2 or 3 players who are going to be scoring for us on a given night. If I get 3 players scoring in double figures, I'm feeling really good about us. So most of the time when I've actually more scouted to focus on the other team, because what we're looking for when we scout is where can we kind of cut the head off the snake on the other team. So we're always looking for the biggest weakness or where we can adjust we always play most of the time, I guess, man-to-man defense. If we need to switch into a zone, which we have a few times, we will, but most of the time man-to-man. And if we want to double someone, who can we leave open, who's the weak link? So I think we kind of, instead of, relying on making them stop us, we really do pay a lot of attention on the details and where defensively can we kind of break them down and get an advantage.
I think I fit into the older coach mode. I've heard Franklin and heard Larry, and early in my career, I loved to watch film and all that kind of stuff when I was younger. Now I hate it. So I have a coach. I got one coach on our staff that he loves scouting. He coached in college. He does a great job. So I send him out a lot. But also the thing that we do is early in the season, we focus a lot more on us. And then if we got a big rival game or a really tough team that we got to do, we'll scout and work and watch them. And we're looking more for little small things. Like one of the things we scout for, since we run the dribble drive, we watch people if they open their hips. We really see if they attack, and so we'll find different defenders that, excuse me, my computer is giving me the devil tonight. But if we find different defenders that open their hips up, we'll definitely make a notation to attack them a lot more. So, and do some specific things. Now, when we get into the region playoffs and our region opponents and definitely state, we're going to see as many people as we can live. I think film sometimes can definitely be deceiving, really deceiving with speed and quickness. So if it's a team that that I'm really concerned about, I'm going to see them live if I can. So, a lot of different philosophies and a lot of different ways that people do different things.
I'm kind of
I'm an old coach. Go ahead, Joe. Go ahead,
almost
Joe.
too much into it, I guess. I try and see each team at least once live, and then I get some film on each team as well. But I think at the beginning of the season, we go over a lot of how we want to defend common actions, like a flex screen or a down screen or ball, whatever it is. And then that way during practice throughout the course of the season, we don't have to go over each team's specific stuff. We'll say this is a flex team, or this is a dribble drive team, or this is a whatever. And so I think and our scouts are more focused on players rather than sets and plays, I guess, who we can leave open, who we want to attack offensively. But I'm probably guilty of watching too much film, I would say. Try to pick out, teams' ATOs or teams, what they want to run to start, if they run something to start a quarter, or what they want to run against zone or whatever. So I think I'm probably guilty of going into it too much, more so than I really need to.
Go ahead, Chris.
With me, I think I emailed you guys a scouting report that would have been our last game of the year. That got called off for the state championship. I am overly obsessive. I was in the midst of going through a divorce, so sleep was not important, and living by myself. We knew Botetourt or Abington were our last two games.
Am I the only one that lost him?
I can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
Yeah.
I don't know. I've been trying 800 computers. Ain't nothing work. I'll switch computers again and try.
You sound a lot better, though, before you cut out.
Try your cell phone. Your cell phone might work.
We'll give it a shot. All right.
I
don't know why.
You guys, because one thing that I switched up with a little bit is, what do you tell your kids? If you're someone that scouts, we may look at something, or as a coaching staff, we may need to know, but how do you decipher between, okay, I need to know it, but my kid doesn't need to know it, or I need to know it, but my kids do need to know it? How do you guys find that line?
I don't tell mine.
You don't?
Yeah, we don't spend a ton of time on it.
I do not tell mine. I mean, we'll go over stuff in practice, but I do not tell mine, because I learned that lesson a long time ago. If you tell them, they think it's coming, and they'll ask you, well, I thought, Coach, when they going to run this? So I don't tell them. I just go over the breakdown of what we want to do.
I think Joe mentioned this a little earlier, but when we get down and we start going over a team and all I had scouting report, we're a lot more about player tendencies than what they run and all. Because,
right.
But the bad thing that I hate about it is this, and I know everybody's going to shake their head when I say this, is I hate to always go over players and say, okay, this kid can't shoot it, or they don't shoot it well, because I promise you, they're going to come out. Ain't no telling how many times we told that a team can't shoot it, and next thing you know, they hit 5 or 6 threes first thing before you do. So, but we're a lot more about tendencies of kids. They can't handle the ball with their left hand. If they're a driver versus a shooter, or one that can do both, their tendencies, how we close out on them, how we're going to play them different ways. So, like I said, I think it's more about player tendencies with us.
Hey, and Gene and like Larry, I want to hear your thoughts on this too. When you guys with the press, your people scout, do you go over the press the day before, like their press breaker, and do you tell the kids that's it, or do you just work on that press breaker, or do you not work on it at all and just do what you normally do in practice?
We normally do what we do in practice. The press, the way our press is we are trapping probably their 2 best ball handlers. And so we identify who those ball handlers are. We look at who's taking the ball out, because that plays a part into our press. But we don't ever really talk about their press breaker, because, again, I'm of the mindset that they got to show that they can beat us before we'll adjust. And going back to that previous question, and I'm kind of curious what you guys think about this, is I never, ever let my kids watch film of another team. I don't ever let my kids watch, like if they play after us, I don't let them watch that. Now, I can't control when they go to friends' games and stuff like that. But one thing that I've learned early on, because I know some coaches will sit there and watch another team's film with their team and break it down. But film is deceiving. And then so my kids are, one of 2 things are going to happen when they watch that film. And that's going to be, they're going to be totally intimidated, or they're going to think they have an easy game. So what we put in the scouting report, and like Gene said, we're more about players' tendencies. is we put in just what we want them to know without making them think that they either have an easy game or that, hey, this kid is just going to tear us up. So only our coaches watch film, and only our coaches have access to scout film.
Hey, Mike, I have a
you,
quick question.
you asked me about.
Hold on 1 second, Gene. What'd you say, Raven?
I just had a quick question for you guys all, and I know a lot of you guys have a lot of state championships. Does your opinion on how you view film, would that change for a team that was maybe like 500 or a team that wasn't as successful or didn't have the level of collegiate players?
Absolutely, it changes for us. If that team is loaded with some great players, we really have to know what we're going to do defensively. We really got to know who we have to stop. So, and again, I talk about our scouting reports. For a team like Hampton, who we were supposed to play in a state championship, it might be 2 full pages. But for the majority of teams we play, it's one-sided. You know, it's limited information. The deeper we get, the more talented the team gets, the more in depth we'll go in the scout. Again, we'll never let them watch the film, but we'll go more in depth on the scout.
Raven, I think that the deeper you go into the playoffs and the teams and all, kind of like Larry said, the more you got to be, you can't be surprised by people. You got to do a little bit more research and everything else, because those are the games that send you home. So I think that you know, not saying that it's just a different philosophy when you get to the teams that you really got to it's on your region that you got to beat, or state level you got to beat. So we kind of turn it up. I guess you say you turn it up a couple notches on those situations, because like Larry said earlier, Franklin said earlier, we're more worried about us early. We're a lot more worried about our team and what we do than somebody else. But it comes to a certain point when you're playing a talented team, you have to go there. Now, one thing I've got one of my assistants doing right now during this period of time that we all have is we're moving to a new region. So this guy that loves to scout, I've got him on films right now on everybody that's coming back new to our region, and even in our classification in the state of Georgia, to go ahead and be getting some of this stuff down now, because it's a good time to get it right now. So it's just some people that's going to be new to us and everything else. We know them, but we're already going in and doing some information on them, so we don't have to spend as much time. Mike, you asked this. I do let our team every now and then, when we're playing against somebody, I'll model their press breaker, because the first 2 or 3 things we're going to do is take away. If somebody's running a set press breaker against us, which you see on film, we're going to take it away and make them play basketball. And so I want to show my kids how we're going to take it away, where they're going to come from. And then, you know, they're going to have to adjust to us. And then, and like I said, they're going to have to do something. Because you take away a lot of people's set press breakers, they don't know what to do. They've wasted all that time, and now you got them where you want them.
Yeah. So, but do you tell them that it's, hey, we're playing them tomorrow, this is what they're going to do? Do you tell them that, or are you just doing it and working on it without committing?
I'll take some time and show them. I mean, I'll show them the cuts. What if, you know, somebody's running a double cutter through, or somebody likes running 1-2-2 and break from the backside, you know, just so they know. Because kids, one thing I found out is this: never take for granted what you think they know. You can be sitting there talking to them all the time about, okay, they're going to do this, this, and this, and they're shaking their heads like that until they get out there in the game and they don't know what the crap they're doing. Yeah. So sometimes I make sure that, okay, you understand this is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So.
And Raven, I'll touch on, and I want to get Chris back on here. When we played you guys, I showed my kids you, because at Loco, y'all play a different style of basketball, I feel like, and the game's ref different. So, like, and I know, Tay, when you guys went and played Woodgrove, you probably did the same thing. In Virginia, basketball, depending on the area, the game looks different, the game's ref different. So I try, like, in the playoffs to get it. And then another thing is, when we had the regional championship game, we had played a team that we beat and a team that we lost to. And the last game we lost to them, and we didn't watch film, but our coaching staff and I probably watched like 11 hours of game film breaking down one player. And we just changed everything, little nuances to our defenses for that one player. And we didn't show the film, but like our whole practice the day before was doing drills to take away a certain girl's 2 or 3 main moves and at least make it a little bit harder for her. And again, in a game, you have a little bit of slippage, but we were able to stall her out a little bit in the first half, we felt like, just by our focus on it. So, yeah, I do think it changes when you get up to a higher level myself. But Chris, I'd love to hear what your thoughts were. Try the phone out.
All right, we'll see what happens. How am I doing?
That's
Good.
better.
That's good, Chris.
All right, we'll give it a shot, man. I'm old in technology. I sent you guys a scout, I believe, emailed it to you guys. I'm the complete 4 pages or so of scouts. I actually would go through and mark where every person starts every time they touch the ball and where they end up. And it's amazing what we find out that you can take away from a kid, especially in girls basketball. A lot of times players are very single-faceted, and we can take their entire game away by taking one side away. Like I said, we go back, a lot like you guys said, we scout everybody, but not so deeply involved with the teams that we know are 30, 40, 50-point wins. We're not spending hours on those teams. What we do a lot different than a lot of people is the Lord Botetourts, the Abingtons, the Carroll counties that we knew we were going to see way down the road. We started scouting films of them in game 1. We started having their first film, their third film, their fifth film. Because oftentimes we may start adjusting who we are through the year as to what we're going to see later in the year. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but that really works for us a lot. Our kids do watch some films. We're really blessed with a lot of really high IQ kids. We're not blessed with a lot of wholly high athletic kids, but they are really smart about the game and they understand what they're doing. So oftentimes, academically, IQ-wise, is how we beat a lot of teams. So, but I have a whole game. We know every offense, every defense. It's long.
And I was going to sort of ask if you know that.
Go ahead, Coach.
What's that?
Going to be playing down the road. He sort of went that little bit. Like, how early do you start? I know for us this year, and when I sort of sensed that we were going to be pretty good, I started looking at teams that we're going to play in other regions, in the second or third week of the season that I thought we might end up playing, trying to get some information on them. So that was one thing that was new to me. This is the first year we really made a run. So,
for me, doing this for 20 years, my early success was in 2004, 2005, and 2006, where film. We might have filmed games, but I don't think I ever watched any film. And in those years, I just focused strictly on ourselves, but getting deeper, I think we started to pay a little bit more attention to detail of the other teams. But I think you got to get to that point towards the end of the season where you're refining your group and they're hopefully hitting on all cylinders. I've now transitioned into more film, which I think has been really good for me, but I also think you become very overloaded with information. And as you watch, you're trying to watch more and more and more. And then you just kind of get away from the purity of the game because you're trying to find everything that every team does. As far as my kids, we tried something a little bit different, not for a very long time, and I wish we had done a little bit longer. My assistant coach made a decision to have like groups of 3 watch film of the team that we were going to play. And it taught them to actually watch film in a way that forced them to focus on the actual opponent. And so they actually had to write a scouting report. They had to present the scouting report. And what I found in that scenario, it's like school for them. I mean, it's just another classroom, and they put a lot of detail in it. So as each group went, they started to appreciate the value of watching film and the amount of time it goes into breaking down a team. Did they present it like a head coach would or an assistant coach would? No, not at all. But from my perspective, what I learned in that, I have a very short attention span. I wasn't a fan of school. I really liked basketball. It's what I went for and ended up getting a degree with it, is that when they handed out the scouting report, they did the scouting report by my template of what I had done in the past or what I had been doing that season. And I got overwhelmed with how long and how much was there that, I mean, shoot, if I was overwhelmed by it, I can only imagine that they probably got to certain parts of it and it was, I mean, they're probably on to other things that they're thinking. So I think film and scouting is, especially at the high school level, you have a small handful of kids that think like we think. And, you know, I spend a lot of time with kids who, like my point guard, who is our primary defender. And so I'll send her clips of their primary ball handler of who she's going to guard, or I'll break down little clips and just through the phone send them where we've not done well in help or where we're not blocking out. But the film piece is, I'm still learning to be better at it. I do find sitting in the stands, you get a better idea of what you're really going to play. And I think film hides that. It's hard. It's very hard to really see the athleticism and the speed. You can find tendencies on both teams. But I think film for me can be very overwhelming, yet it can be very helpful.
And Chris, piggyback. Yeah. Well, go ahead, Chris.
Oh, no, I was just going to say the same thing. I just wanted to reiterate what she said. I think, you know, in the old days, if you wanted film with somebody, oftentimes you were driving 2 or 3 hours to hand each other a videotape.
Yeah.
You know, so you watch that one tape over and over again. And I think that the other thing I want to reiterate is what she just said. Huddle makes it easy for us to be lazy.
Mm-hmm.
And to just bring in film after film after film. You can learn so much more in being there one night. The actual size of a team, the speed of a team. You hear what they call things. You know, it's amazing what you hear when you're at a game. Sit near the bench and hear what's being said. Watch their point guard and how they communicate with the coach. Oftentimes they're letting you know what's happening well before it happens. I think all of those are huge keys. One thing that we do oftentimes with that information, we echo everything that a team says. It's amazing mentally. Somebody comes down the court and the point guard yells, "Scissors, scissors," and you all yell "scissors" and look around. It's like Coach said earlier, it defeats the team. They're almost like, well, hell, why are we running that? So the information that you see in person that you never see on film is amazing. So for younger people, don't let huddle be the end all of everything. Go out, see teams, make sure somebody's seeing them. And I think we would all agree with this. This comes year in, year out is completely different. A high IQ team one year that can take a lot of information, and some teams that need no information because they don't get it. They don't see it. So it all depends year in, year out. It's just like learning your offense or anything else. You got to adjust.
Yeah. And guys,
my computer's messing up so bad. I said my computer's messing up so bad, so I missed some of the discussion. But one thing I was going to tell younger coaches is to watch out for too is the same team that you scout or you look at early in the season is not going to usually be the same team you see late in the season. A lot of times people will get like to scout early. You better make sure you try to get as latest film as you can because a lot of times that can be very, very deceiving.
And guys, I want to share with you something that, you know, and it's one of those things, this quarantine's made us all pretty creative. We've done like some video assignments with our kids. So for example, like Gene gave me some of his videos of his press, and 4 or 5 of our kids, I gave them the assignment to watch it and give feedback. So like today I had a kid, Savannah Derry, like I didn't know what to expect. You know, I really didn't. Savannah Derry gives me 4 pages of notes on Buford's press, like breaks the whole thing down, and like honestly, damn near better than I probably could in some ways. Like it was real. Now, not every kid gets into that, But then I have another kid who's getting recruited by some colleges. He's a 22. And I have a college coaching friend who has a Synergy, which is where you can watch all the college teams. And I gave her the Synergy account and said, okay, here's the schools recruiting you. I want you to watch them in detail and a player at your position. And, like, I want to see what you learn from it. And she really had a lot of fun with it. You know, that's actually a Fiddler's daughter. You know, she sent me back. She had 3 pages of notes a day on different teams that are recruiting her. And it was just, I was able to talk to her and like, okay, well, which team do you think fits you the best? You know, why does it fit you the best? You know, what did you learn from watching that position? So I think especially now, like, we're starting to think of different ways to use it. But I really like Chrissy's idea of getting them doing it in groups of 3 and doing their own scouting report. Anybody got anything else?
We do the small group scouting report thing. Yeah, we do the small group scouting report thing, and I think if you do that once a year with your group, they understand what kind of effort you're putting into it, and it maybe brings a little bit more value to the information, because I think once they see it in person one time, they start to understand what we're looking for, and it helps.
I got you.
Mike, one other thing that popped in my mind too, that was this. You know, we all like for our kids to watch video and film and all and send them to huddle and all that, but sometimes you got to remember what their viewpoint is compared to our viewpoint is. And I think that, like, we took a session last year before to talk about film and everything else, because you got to get them so that they're watching it so that they understand what you're looking at as a coach and not just watching a game. And so they got to kind of understand about breaking down and looking up. You know, you made a great point about kids, you know, taking notes and doing all that kind of stuff. But it's kind of the same way some kids can read a book or watch a video and they get different things out of it. I think you got to be kind of leery of how they do it if they're trying to get what you want them to get out of it a lot of times, instead of just watching the game.
Hey guys, I want to switch topics here a little bit.
I agree with that.
Gene.
Wholeheartedly.
Say that again, Harris.
I said I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Mm-hmm.
It's all in how they take it and watch it, and that's probably another reason I don't show a lot of film to them, because their mindset and my mindset are 2 different things, and it's just not a what I call a kill time. So me and my sisters, we watch it, we break it down, and we use it in practice. And you know, we might watch film, you know, after a practice for 45 minutes, and it's you know, feed them a little bit and change their mindset. But it's not to watch a whole game, and it might be a clip of this game, a clip of that one, clip of this, and, you know, mainly pointing out things that they do bad. I very seldom point out things they do well. So, but that's basically that's my style. I guess it's so old school because I am old, but I just believe in that, and I guess I'm on that side. I'm too hard-headed to change.
Hey, can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah, I can.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had a little, when Harris was talking, my old thing glitched a little bit. I don't know if Gene's computer issues are corrupting my computer or what, but the other topic
It's all this rain.
yeah. The other topic I wanted to ask you guys was, you know, what do you think when you look back on your career, whether it be recent or you know, way back in the, you know, distance, you know, what was your biggest mistake in coaching?
personal or player wise?
Personal.
Personal.
Mm-hmm.
Each year, or I mean, because
I think for
there's
me,
there's time when I'm sure everybody. Go ahead.
oh no, go ahead. Go ahead. You're good.
So you,
I mean,
Yeah.
as long as most of us
Where
are
would-
doing this, for as long as we've been doing it, and I'm sure, just like me, there's everybody that you sit back and there's something that you've done every year that is, on the personal side, but nothing glaring. Mine is more toward on a player side, to where I think about it so much. I had a young lady that played for me a few years ago that Larry Starr knows. And she was on a roll when it's like we were blowing somebody out so bad, and she didn't play the fourth quarter. And with about 30 seconds to go, one of my coaches said, she has 49 points, don't you? And I went, well, she's not going back in.
You consider that a mistake?
Do I consider that a mistake? I mean,
Yeah.
just thinking that, would it have been nice for her to get 50? I don't know. It's just ones that I've always thought about,
I
Not
don't
saying it's
consider that a
yay or nay,
mistake.
but,
She should have got her 50 earlier.
well, that's true, But it's just one, that you, stick with and think about.
I'll tell you, my biggest mistake or regret as a coach, and so I'm really hesitant to do this anymore, is I brought a guy on whose daughter played for me. And it ended up being a lawsuit against me and the school. I mean, the guy was a piece of crap. But ever since that happened, I'm very reluctant to bring a parent on board. I had one parent who was my assistant coach who I brought on board after his daughter graduated. And I actually brought another parent on, but it was somebody that I watched in the stands for 6 years because the older sister played for me and never said a derogatory thing, only cheered. She knows basketball. She played in college. So I brought her on board. But for me, that was the biggest mistake I've ever made coaching, was really not checking into this guy more than I should have, or as much as I should have.
I did a similar. I hired a parent years before his daughter played for us, about 4 years before his daughter played. Excellent coach, excellent X and O's, better than that at just fundamentals. The thing he could not do once his daughter arrived, nothing in the program could be any different than his daughter. I struggled to fire him and to get rid of him because his wife was a principal in the school system, and they continued to find loopholes. I would have been much better. The program would have been better early on if I would have walked away and forced him to get rid of him than to stay around and let him. He got to stay around one more year and cause more damage to our program in a year than he did ever. Than he ever would have if it was just a bad situation. Sometimes you have two types of parents. Some parents that are more coaches than parents, and some parents that can never step away from being that parent and everything being about their child.
Yeah.
In that same time, I also did my daughter. I'm the only guy who never started my daughter in a game. She started every game as an AAU player. She started every game in college. She didn't start the first 11 for me until she was the leading scorer in the team as a freshman. And I felt horrible about that. And this same parent I'm talking about would ground their kid if she wasn't the leading scorer. So oftentimes I would take my daughter out early so that this girl could have her cell phone or her nice clothes. Those would be the moments that I look back on that I had control of personally. There's losses that you feel bad about, but in the end, you know you did everything you could do and just maybe made a wrong decision. But those are the things that hurt you as you think back on your career.
Mike,
Yeah, that's very true.
I'm so sorry that I'm having all these computer issues because I enjoy this so much. Can you hear me?
We can hear you right now.
Well, I can tell you it would take me too long. I'm going to make this really short, but my biggest mistake by far was compromising we had built something really good here at Buford the first 4 or 5 years, and I compromised our culture for our best player and let her handcuff me. And just by doing that with one player, it destroyed our culture in less than a year. Totally laid on the ground. It was a whole situation that I hated what had been done. And like I said, long story. Is number 2 player in the nation. Matter of fact, I'll tell you who it was. It's Kayla Davis that went on South Carolina. And I didn't do some things that I needed to do. And boy, let me tell you what, it was a terrible mistake that really set our program back in many ways. So, but here's the good thing about it. Smart enough to learn from it, move on from it, and it will never, I don't care how good a player we have walked through the doors at Buford, she could be the best player in the nation, but I promise you this, she will not handcuff our program or do the things, because what hurt was some of the other kids we had there didn't get a chance to be a part of the special type program that we had promised that we'd have because of one kid handcuffing our program. And I heard, what was the coach out of Texas you had, Mike, on here that's so famous? Great guy.
Joe Lombard.
I heard him tell the story when we was talking to him the other day that Joe said, about when UCLA, John Wooden, when Lou Alcindor said that, and he said, okay, we'll change everything. I was laughing to myself because I'm telling you, I will never change our program ever again. I don't care who it is. I don't care how many wins we got to give up. It will not be done. It was awful.
And I got a situation that's similar to that, man. Early on in my career, when I first took my head coaching job at Glenn here, I took over a program that was not very successful, and I was young and I was eager, and I allowed talent to compromise culture. And I was after my second year, I had some kids that were really working hard, that were getting better. At the time, they weren't getting better at the rate that I wanted them to get better. And there was a kid in our county who transferred or wanted to transfer. And I should have seen the red flags because she was successful where she was at. And there had to be a reason why she was trying to go elsewhere. And I took her. Because of, she was one of the best players in our county. And I totally set back the kids that had been in the program. I allowed her to do more than what I should have. And again, I was in my third year as a head coach, and that situation prompted me to kind of take on the philosophy that I have today, which is culture above everything. And again, I piggyback with Gene, man, and I agree fully. No matter how good that kid is, no matter what their parents are bringing to the table, the culture of my program is above everything. And I've grown to see a significant amount of success since that incident happened. But that's the thing, as a young coach, I mean, you're going to take some lumps. I mean, I take some lumps today, but learning from them is what I think is the most rewarding thing ever. But I would never, ever do that again.
You know, guys, I was, thinking about, well, I'll take you back. The first time I heard this question was at a job interview. I was asked this. I had no idea. I thought it was a really good question. What's your biggest mistake in coaching? And it kind of caught me off guard. So I've had some time to think about this because I don't know how you guys do, but when you have different jobs and stuff, you always keep those job interview questions written down somewhere. My true to honest ones, my biggest mistakes, they're ongoing. And number one is I focus way too much on things I have zero control over. And that is debilitating for me. And that's something that I still fight now. The second thing is one that was, when I first got into coaching, was a real problem. And I'm pretty good at it now, but I think it's because I pay attention to it. Your insecurities can cripple you as a coach because we're out there and we all have to appear very confident or fake it till we make it. But the truth is, when we all started, I do believe this, had some type of, am I good enough? Is what I'm doing right? I want to, I read about, Pat Summitt, Gino, you want to be them, or you want to do like that, just that comfort level to be secure enough in me being me and not trying to be somebody else. And that what we do is the right thing. Those two things, getting rid of the insecurities, but then also, which I still struggle with, is the things that I can control. I had my first, or not this past season, but 2 seasons ago, I made myself miserable because of administrative things. I didn't like how things were above me with administration, and that just completely ruined my experience of us having a great year and going throughout the state tournament, all that. And, one thing that I think made this year much more enjoyable, and my AD even said this to me, was you just seem to let everything roll a little bit better, because we still had the same screwed up stuff happen, but I just did not let it eat at me all day. So for me, I think those two, they're ongoing, but they're definitely my biggest mistakes I've made for sure.
I would sort of echo that a little bit. I think I obsess too much over every single little thing in our program. Like I'm almost a micromanager, I guess. And the way I think of it is I don't want something that I didn't do to be the reason we lost the game.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like for my assistant, I have one assistant. We don't get any stipends for our assistant, so she's a volunteer. So that means I pretty much I watch every single film. I go scout every single game. I do every single practice plan, all that stuff. And my thing is, if I want it, I don't want it to be the reason that we didn't win a game. And so if we're going to lose, it's going to fall back, on me. It's not going to be because I didn't do something. So I think that's, and sort of going off of earlier, I think I know my sort of took over in a weird situation when I took over. It was like a couple weeks into the season and a coach resigned. So I was coaching JV boys and they just said, hey, you want to coach girls? And said, sure. Okay. So I just did it. But I know we had a good senior class that year and had some success. And then my second year, I had to replace a lot of kids. And so I was, gung-ho, we're going to find, we want some upperclassmen, we want some seniors, blah, blah, blah. And so I kept, and that's the biggest mistake I've ever made, is kept seniors who couldn't play. And it killed us. And they ended up just causing too much of a headache. They couldn't play. And so I said, heck with that. And then the next year we went with all freshmen and sophomores. Well, fine, we'll go ahead and get crushed. We're going to roll with these kids because I know they want to be here. So I think that's, trying to do too much, I guess, is a weakness.
Mike, one thing I wanted to reemphasize too is this. there's a lot of successful coaches you have on here that's done it a whole lot of different ways and had a lot of success. You know, like I was talking about earlier about being handcuffed by the best player and all that stuff. Well, it's easy for me to say that now because I've been successful and won state championships and that stuff. It's real easy to get on here and preach about that stuff when you've done it. It's hard when you're a young coach and you really want to climb the ladder and you really want to do well and all like that, to understand that sometimes winning is not the be all, you know, end all. And so, I mean, I think one of the biggest things that we have to invest in now is younger coaches. I talk about this all the time, that everybody's complaining about the players and they can't do this and they can't do that. I don't worry about the players. I worry about young coaches, because the players are going to do what coaches make them do. And so it's like I said, it's easy for all of us to have success to get in here and talk about, oh, well, you need to do this, you need to do that. But I remember back when I was so hungry to win a state championship, I'd have done anything. So young coaches, you got to remember that. I mean, it's just some tough navigational hills and valleys and landmines you have to go through sometimes in your environment. But I'm telling you that sometimes it's not worth it with the winning. It's not. It's hard to believe that, but sometimes you can't compromise what you truly believe in a program, or it's going to crumble. It really will. So like I said, just kind of worry about who you listen to and how you listen to it, because like I said, it's easy sometimes to talk about it.
It's interesting to hear all the different perspectives. I think what's been hard for me over the 20 years is when I first got into it, I would say I was borderline crazy, intense, you know, threw the ball up against the wall. You know, at one I was so pissed off at practice, I kicked the ball, and my manager was doing her homework against the wall, and the ball went flying, and it came right at her head, and she ducked to the side and hit off. I mean, I was that. And then, I don't know, age kicked in, or I don't know, but I will tell you from my perspective, to teach and coach mental fortitude and toughness, it doesn't matter if you're young, it doesn't matter if you've been here for 20, 30 years, to be able to consistently teach that without falling into, well, it's a different generation. And they are a different generation, don't get me wrong, but I still think they have the capacity to be coached hard and coached tough. And when we lost in the state quarterfinals, which was interesting because it wasn't even the whole ride wasn't even that enjoyable, because I didn't even feel like I have a great group of kids, but I didn't feel like they were tough. And I remember walking out of the classroom and my AD was standing right there. And I said, I got to ask you a question. And he said, sure. And I said, I need to know if you'll support me if I go back to being who I am. And he looked at me and he said, you're not who you are. And I said, not even close. And he said, I can tell, because your kids don't know how to win. And I said, and that's exactly it, because they don't know how to handle adversity. And as the season goes on, and as you're trying to, 22 games after the first, second, 15th, there's always another game. But as you get deeper into it, it's how do you handle that adversity, and are you prepared for it mentally? Because it's not the physical piece, it's the mental piece. And he said to me, he said, I will support you, but you better hold a parent meeting at the beginning of the season and let them know that your kids are going to go through some really challenging times. They're going to cry. They're going to feel like they want to quit. You can't support that mindset, because at the end of the day, it's all preparation for life. And we lost on a Friday. On Sunday, I had brunch. I had brunch with my former player who won a state championship with me in 2004. And I was just kind of giving her, just a little bit of what happened. And she said, Coach Kelly, I remember as a freshman going home every single day crying from practice. And my parents were like, are you okay? Do you need to talk to somebody? And it wasn't that. It was just she was put in a place of discomfort all the time, because I was asking her to raise her bar. She was only a freshman. We were a brand new program. We were supposed to go 0-22. And I pushed these kids to a limit, and they embraced it. And I think going through this journey, whether you're in your first, fifth, 15th, you have to continue to teach them to embrace adversity without going home and saying, Mom, Dad, this is really hard. And then mom and dad calling you or saying, I can't believe that they're handling it, because it's life. I mean, hell, we're in a pandemic right now. You want to talk about being prepared for this? It happens in between those lines. And I think that's something that I regret. I learned to develop skill, but I forgot what has made me successful as a coach. And that's developing toughness and grittiness and perseverance. And in the biggest moments, my kids were mentally prepared, and I've gone away from that, and it kills me. So, I think as a young coach, don't be afraid to push them to the limits. Just figure out how to do it without them taking it so damn personal.
And have good administration behind you.
Yeah, that's a huge one. And I've been very fortunate to have good administration. But it was interesting to listen to Gino and Taurasi talk about, her and her journey with him, and then her kind of talking about Becker's coming there and her saying, you're not going to be able to coach her tough. Mm-hmm. And he was like, oh, maybe I guess he said I can. And he was like, she's like, I don't know, because you're under my – if I was Becker's, I'd be watching that video going, okay, he's talking to the GOAT. Let me call up Gino and say, please coach me as hard as you coached her so I can be as good as her. I don't think you have that. And I don't want to talk too long, but just real quick, as I'm watching The Last Dance, it's kind of ironic, of all the players past Jordan, Kobe is the only one who even comes close. And so growing up in that era, being a little bit older, but to really be in it, to see that mentality and just the disparity between Jordan's mentality and the Bulls' mentality versus the new athlete is just crazy to me. Crazy.
You said a lot of great stuff in there, Chrissy. I want to ask you, when that conversation with your AD, was that recent? Was that this year? Was that, when
it was right after the state quarterfinal game. I was so pissed off.
So you're getting ready to make that change when we come out of the pandemic to, I'm going to be me.
Yeah. Well, it was we were in the regional quarterfinals, and this is how I've been. I turned to my sophomore point guard. I said, I wish I had a dependable freaking point guard. I'm not sure if I use freaking, but I said, I need a dependable point guard. At some point in time, can I get a damn dependable point guard? And she was devastated. And like Saturday night at 11 p.m., she texted me and she's like, Coach Kelly, I just can't stop thinking about you saying I don't have a dependable point guard. And I texted her back and I said, well, I don't. And I said, if you are waiting for me to coddle you and tell you everything is going to be okay, you can't text me. You got to find somebody else. And then we ended up meeting. And I said, until you stop trying to find your self-worth and your value, from my opinion, you're never going to be successful, not just at basketball, but in anything. Then ironically, she's always been the kid that I've been able to coach like I've coached for the 20 years that I've been doing it. But that one conversation of me not making her feel better, she ended up being our best player down the stretch. She was the only one who could handle the big moment. She was the only one in the regional final when there's 2,500 or 2,200 people in the gym that didn't shit her pants. My all district, my all region, they shit their pants. She was the only one who was mentally prepared for the moment because she understood it wasn't personal. It was just honest.
That's good stuff, Coach, because I know with some of the players that have been in our program the past couple of years, they told one of our younger kids that was an 8th grader in the program this year that, like, hey, you're going to have to figure out, like, because one thing we talk about, we're either going to drag you or you're going to lead us. And we all have those kids that we have to drag to win. And our kids got to drag them. Well, the ones that let you just be you and coach them hard, they're the ones that go play in college. They get all the awards and stuff. And the best players, at least in our program, are the ones that allow me to just completely get in their shit every day and not have to say as many nice things as I do bad things. Those are the players, at least for us, when we get into games, play the best. And that – not that goes against the culture that everybody talks about now, that you got to sandwich good things in with bad things. You got to be positive. I think you got to be positive, but those people that really want to be dogs, they got to be able to handle the pressure. And the only way you do that is if, as a coach, you're always in their butt.
Look, I don't know if any of y'all watched that interview with Taurasi and Gino, but one of the things that I find that he said was brilliant was he said, "We have now legislated mediocrity." And you couldn't be any more correct in that. It's everybody needs to feel good. And it's a horrible way of going about it, because when you feel good, you have a tendency to stop growing. And growth is the only thing that's going to allow you to reach whatever level that you are aspiring to get to. And I think kids feel way too good now. I think they feel way too good without earning it. And listening to Jordan, there's some things just, he doesn't consider himself the GOAT, and he can't, because he's got too much respect for those that came before him. And in the Last Dance, when, I don't know if it was in The Last Dance, if it was in that, or if I was watching something with LeBron, and LeBron was watching I don't know what finals it was. I guess he made the pass to Ray Allen in the corner. And he says to his people that he's sitting with, he said, "That's when I became the GOAT." I find that a very bizarre statement. Do I think he is great? Do I think he's the GOAT? No, not even close.
Mike, I think one of the biggest points too, and I apologize, Chrissy, is that
good.
I didn't know your name, but I think one of the biggest points she's making too that's really important is you got to be who you are as a coach. You can't be nobody else, because there's a lot of different ways to win at this game. So many coaches. Larry, let me ask you this, and I don't know you except through this Zoom, but respect you already. Are you a screamer or a shouter?
Definitely.
You are?
Yeah, but that's the way I hear people saying that, they do all their coaching in practice and not during a game. And I coach as hard during the game as practice. So, yeah, I am. And Kara can attest to that because she played for me. But I think as I've gotten older, I've simmered down a little bit, but I'm still myself.
See, I'm a in your face, get after your butt from time you walk in, everything else. But I think a lot of times too, young coaches will try to emulate that situation that don't work for them. You got to be who you are, because kids see through it, dogs see through it, it all see through it. And even you saw that you wasn't coaching the way you needed to, and you had to step back and do that. But I think people's got to figure out what your personality lets you be and who you are, because you can't be anybody else. One of the hardest things that I've had to do in 32 years of coaching is I use this phrase: I've had to adapt without changing, because adapting is trying to be better adapted to your environment without changing and losing what you're really all about. Because kids have changed. There's no doubt about it. What my kids did 20 years ago, can they still do it physically and all? Yes. But the environment emotionally and all around them, not as well. Now, do I believe in that? Bull crap, no, I don't. But the thing about it is this: you got to find ways to reach them no matter what. Amanda Butler's a really good friend of mine at Clemson right now, and she was telling me a story one time that really, really holds true to me. She said she was talking about now they have to have psychiatrists and all this coming in on players and all that. She was talking about how she thought it was bull crap and all that, but then she said this. She said, "Here's the deal. It don't matter what I think. It don't matter. I've got to reach these kids. My computer's messing up. And so I've got to do what it takes to get them to respond to me. So you know what? it might not be what I want, but I got to do it this way. Now, I don't believe in that as much because either they can get with my program or they can get out the door. That's bottom line. But I think coaches have to coach to what their strengths and weaknesses are.
And I agree 100% with what you said. And you said something that is exactly what I've always thought has happened for me over the last 10 years or so, is adapting without changing. You know, we've had some great players come through here, and I've had to adapt a little bit, but I never changed. I did it my way, and they either bought into the program or they didn't. And I've had kids that don't buy into the program and transfer out, but they know what they're getting when they come here. There's no surprise, and it still doesn't change the freshman coming in that is in shock, in culture shock when she walks in that gym. But eventually what happens is she adjusts to it. The older players take her under the wing and tell them, you know, I think Kara, she told me one time, Kara was my point guard for a couple years, and the starting point guard when she was a freshman, I was ripping her for something. And she told me that the point guard pulled her aside and said, listen, he's an asshole. Just let it go in one ear and out the other. That's what we all do.
I think that's so important when you got kids. That speaks to when you have a culture developed.
Absolutely.
Because next time when that freshman's there and I'm the upperclassman, I'm saying the same stuff to them because I know how much that took to get me to where I needed to be.
Great points.
I think it goes back to last week's discussion with your younger players. If you coach your best players the hardest, and those kids came from freshmen to seniors or juniors or whatever it is, and they are resilient and they allow you to coach them that way and they take it, the young kids see it and they learn from it. Don't give people, if you're a young coach, don't give people bullets. If something is a no-go, don't go there. You can cuss without cussing a kid. And that's very big. And let people know who you are. I think that's with my program, coaching from 4th grade, 3rd grade up, they know who I am before they ever arrive. And they're waiting for it and they know it. And I think when you see all you great coaches have players that are back and are around, that helps too because they're in the ears of parents too, and they're letting people know what happens. The other thing I would say for young coaches is we tell our kids not to let the things that they can't change affect them. You can't change anonymous letters, and nobody cares about them. So if they don't sign them, take it from your AD and throw it in the trash and say, when they sign it, we'll talk about it. The best choice I ever made, we got beat in the state championship in 2010. After the game, the superintendent said, congratulations. I said, well, I wish we would have won. And they said, no, you're the new football coach. I was like, well, hell no, I ain't the football coach. And she said, no, you are, or you don't have a job. So about 7 years later, the administration came to me and asked me to do something I was not comfortable with and change who I was. I said, I'm not going to do it. And they said, well, we're going to fire you at the end of the year. I said, well, I reckon you're going to have to fire me. I felt better about being fired than anything else because I didn't bend on who I was. And if I would have compromised everything I was as a coach. So if they don't appreciate who you are at a program or at a school, then you're probably at the wrong school and you're never going to find happiness there. You can stick it out for a little bit and try to change it, but they're going to find ways to come after you. So, be who you are and find a place that appreciates you for who you are. And I think that's the biggest thing. I had another school come in, asked to send a extra scorekeeper to the table because somebody was sick. That scorekeeper videotaped me with a camera the entire game and then sent it to our parents after the game. A parent did. Then the damn school called me and said, we're going to give this to the newspaper and the radio if you coach the next game. Our parents said, you didn't say anything we didn't know was already happening. That's why y'all lost by 30 and we won. You know, be who you are and just accept it. And your parents will have your back, but don't hide from them and don't be afraid of everyone.
Can I say something too that, you know, and Gene brought it up earlier, there's so many different ways to coach. And, you know, some of the things we're talking about now is you always heard the term that a team takes on the personality of a coach. And I see that big time, but I watch, and again, I'll refer back to Kara because she played for me and she knows how in your face and yelling I am, but she's just as intense on the court, but not maybe, and Kara, correct me if I'm wrong, probably not as, for lack of a better term, as degrading as I can get. But then I watch her team and she wins a state championship because her team is playing just as hard as my team, but it's a little different style. So you can have that intensity without being in your face, that type of thing.
Hey, the last thing I would like to say in this whole thing is also realize that you have 10, 12, 14 different personalities. I'm not going to coach everybody in your face. I had a D1 player that could not take that at all. I had to one day, she was the MVP of a tournament, and I said, Lord, how much have you improved? You sucked in this tournament last year, and now you're the MVP. It was like 4 weeks later, I realized she hadn't spoke to me since. When I asked somebody, they said, well, Coach, you said she sucked. I said, I think she sucked last year. And I said, it was a compliment. And we had a conversation, but I could not coach her like I did the others. And as long as I kept my tone down and I chose my words with her, she performed unbelievable. But she just couldn't be brought down to be built back up. So everybody has a different way of getting from the ground up. You got to find out that. To teach a kid, you got to reach a kid. And there's 12 different kids. And you got to reach them all a different way.
And that's adapting without changing. That's exactly what Gene said earlier. That's what I think. Because, you know, I'm in your face, but I'm not in everybody's face. I know who can take it and who can't take it.
Yeah. But I think it's important that for us, when we're trying to win, we all got to have a few people that can take it. Because that's who we got to put it out on. Like, there's been days in the practice where, like, I've intentionally told my coaches, like, I'm going to really get after these kids today, these few ones, just to set the tone early. So we'd be doing, like, a regular drill, and I would just jump the shit of Shelby Fiddler for really no reason. I just make something up that seems stupid, but because they can take it. And if you don't do it to them, if you have to be soft on everybody, there's no way in hell you're going to win. Like, I just don't see how it happens. That was probably one of our best
thing too, Mike.
Go ahead, Mel.
I'm about to say that, you know, just like how you say with Shelby, you kind of have to, you know, jump her shit just for the heck of it. Like I have to do that with my best players, man, because I've got to let everyone else see them take it. Everybody in the program has to know that, yo, like this is how it goes. This is how it is. And like I said, man, you know me better than anybody else in here. So you know what me jumping their shit looks like. And it's not for the faint of heart at times. So, you know, you got to know that you got to know exactly who you are, and your players got to know exactly who you are if that's what you're going to be. So, yeah. I mean, you know, again, I coach AAU and high school, and a lot of kids may play for me AAU before they come to play for me in high school. And I have to give that disclaimer, like, yo, AAU Coach Mel and high school Coach Mel are two totally different people. So this is what you're getting. Now, this is what you're getting every single day. Now, if I offend you in AAU, it's probably gonna be a good idea that you go play somewhere else, because this ain't really changing.
Mike,
go ahead, Gene.
One thing too that I think is really, really important. And I think we all know this, but I think that you got to keep this in the back of your mind all the time. I think one of the biggest rules is this: You can never coach a kid hard unless you got a relationship with them. If you ain't got a relationship with them, you better know what you're doing, because you're going to lose that kid. Because relationships go to trust, and I'm telling you, they don't trust you. And I just think that it is hard that if you don't have a relationship with a kid, you better know what you're doing if you're trying to coach them hard. And I believe in coaching. What Coach said earlier and all that, I totally agree with. I believe in that wholeheartedly. I don't think you can win unless your best players are tough, unless your best players are coachable, and your best players are your hardest workers, because everybody else is going to be feeding off them. But I got a coach on my staff right now. He can't get this, and he's been with me 14 years and been a coach for almost 30. He does not develop relationships with our kids. He's standoffish. He does not have a relationship with them. And whenever he says something to them, you can almost look at them. They don't want nothing to do with him. He can't figure that out. And so I just think that that's a rule that, man, if you're going to coach them hard, you better have a relationship with them.
That is this whole conversation right there in a nutshell. Right there on the head. That is it. Right there. If you do not have that relationship with your players, you're done. You're done. Because they know they can now trust you.
And it's got to be about talking about stuff other than basketball.
Yes.
You can't just talk about basketball. You got to be able to talk about other stuff.
Yeah.
Because we work in an inner city school. I have somebody a player that's going through stuff that, just got kicked out of her house by her mom today. Like, it's just different things you got. It's different kids. But I want to switch, and this is a good segue into it, because I think it's related. We've been talking about relationship with kids and coaching hard. Where does that also go in line with your parents? What's the parent involvement look like with you and your program? Are they completely immersed? Do you just use them as fundraise people, but you keep them away? Like, how do you – and I'll tell you from my experience, the reason why I think this is a great question, and it was Gene's that he brought up in the text message, was I try to keep my parents away right now because I think some of them are batshit crazy, to be honest with you. And I don't want them around me. If I had great parents, I'd love to be around them. The great parents I got, I put them on my staff because I'm okay with having the two people I have on my staff that are parents because they know how to coach and do it. They've done a phenomenal job. But I've tried to keep my parents the hell away from me. So I'd love to hear how some of you guys have not done that, because it'd be a lot easier if I had all the parents kumbaya with me all the time. But, I just love to hear some of the thoughts on how you guys do it.
Mike, one thing I find is I go ahead and you've heard it mentioned already, we have a parents meeting, and we do that very, very early on in the year. And I lay out my expectations, and I say, look, my job is to help your daughter become a better human being, and she'll become a better basketball player along the way. But my most important job is to help her become a better human being. Because there's the thing. That way they know I could care less about winning and losing. I love to win. Love to win a whole lot. But it's more about seeing that kid who's struggling in a class figure it out and get it. And then when you do that, then my parents were great. They did meals for us this year. They ran an AU tournament where all the proceeds went back to our program. I've got a couple parents who are in charge of my boosters club who I just go to them and I say, I need this check. They write the check for us. And we're not at a very rich school. If you know anything about Fort Chiswell High School, we're probably the poorest high school of the 3 county schools. And about 65% of our kids are on free and reduced lunch. So when we host an AU tournament, everybody was there. And everybody did a shift and everybody did their part. And the parents were great. I came into a situation where the previous coach did not have relationships with those kids. And then it was like, he really cares about the kids. And I'd say, we need to practice at 6 o'clock Friday morning because we've got to do something. Nobody questioned it. Everybody's like, all right, coach said to do it, and they did it. And they've been great.
I think for us, it's sort of like a little bit with you, Coach Hedrick. It's, some parents are really easy for me to communicate with and are all completely on board. But it's the parents for me that their kids are the average players are the best parents. So they sort of know that their kids are average and their kids are humble and coachable, where for me, the hardest parents for me to deal with are the parents of our best players. And that's sort of coming to fruition a little bit right now, where
For me, go ahead, Coach.
I think that their kids a lot better than they really were, and why are you coaching my kids so hard? We've had that talk about coaching the best players the hardest, and I think that's the odd thing for me is the best parents in our program are the parents of kids who may not get to play a whole lot, or the average kids, where it makes it harder. The better players are the ones with the parents that I wish would sort of stay away.
For me, it's a situation where, man, it's a year-to-year thing. I mean, depends on the kids. Some years, parents are better than others because they play as much. I think older kids they kind of get a little bit more that you have to deal with. But I mean, what's been working for me is I try to be as straight up and honest with those parents up front as I can when they walk in the door. And we all know this. Some parents have expectations of their kids that are absolutely crazy. Like, I mean, you'll have the parent that will tell you that, well, yeah, my daughter, she has expectations. She's gonna try to shoot to go play at UConn, and she's 5'2", and she's never made a left-hand layup in her life. And you kind of got to taper those things to me up front. And I tell them, look, man, we're gonna work as hard as we can for your kids. We're gonna do everything we can to help make them a better basketball player. You got to be realistic about what that is. And our job here, like Coach Mayo was saying earlier, man, you want to make these kids better people, and at the same time try to help them reach their academic and athletic dreams as much as possible. But at the same time, this is the way that we're going to do it. And I kind of give my parents a flat, this is what we're doing. This is the way that it goes. We are having this fundraiser on this date. We're having this tournament on this date. I need you here. I need you to bring food after each game. Here's the sign-up sheet. I need you to work concessions. Here's the sign-up sheet for that. And this is just kind of how it goes. I mean, you get some parents to participate more than others, be it by choice or, by resource. But for the most part, man, as long as I'm completely honest with them, straight up with them, and I try to address them on every situation, not just basketball, classroom stuff. If we have any type of behavior issue, I'm usually the first one to come to them before any administrator can come to them. It shows pretty well. We have some kids that, they don't like their role on the team. And, like I tell parents, and I'm one that I will invite parents into practice. Like, I don't mind that. Like, they come, they watch, because anything that I'm going to say and do to your kid in practice, I'm going to say and do to them in the game. And, I mean, you already know it. So there's nothing for us to hide. So that's my parent situation. You got some parents that are absolutely phenomenal. And like Mike said, man, you got absolutely some batshit crazy parents.
Mike, when I was early in my career, I had pretty much ruled I ain't dealing with parents. Pretty soon I understood, guess what? You're going to deal with parents. How you deal with them is left up to you. But you're going to deal with them because those are kids. I think that you have to lay out not only for your players, but for your parents, your expectations and your culture and what the total expectations and all, whether you do it in a parents meeting. I mean, we all have parents meetings, all that, but it's got to be a situation that they truly understand. And like I'll tell my parents, hey, listen, if your daughter don't fit in our culture, that's fine. But if you don't fit in our culture, we don't want you either. Guess what? Because we have a culture there. So I think that that's a big time thing. I'm an over communicator. I send out a weekly email to my parents. I got them on a distribution list, the players on a distribution list. I'm going to communicate with them all the time, because what I'm never going to do is give parents bullets to shoot me. I'm going to make sure that we do that. So we're going to make sure we over communicate. I'm going to do a lot of times doing a lot of parent individual meetings with kids and their parents that I think are problems or could be a problem down the line. And I'm not going to meet with the kid, and I'm not going to meet with the parents. I'm going to put them all in a room together so there ain't no line. Because a lot of times you tell a kid this, when it goes home, it's something else. So like even right now, we can't have them on school, but I've got like 3 or 4 younger kids that's going to be good players for us next year, but it's going to be left up kind of to them. I went to their houses and met with their parents and them and laid out the plan, laid out what we need out of them, because I feel like one of the things we do in our program really well is we cut off problems before they become problems. And so we identify these things a lot of times before they come down the line. And what we try to do is put the ball in their court. I told one of my sisters the other day, I try to get my sisters, especially my son, to go with me, because dealing with parents is a skill. How you deal with them, like I said, is a skill. And so I tried to tell them, I said, you got to understand, my job right here in this meeting is for me to get the parent off the kid's side and onto my side. So they're not siding with the kid, they're siding with me. And so, I think that we, like I said, do a lot of over communicating with that. My AD, I love this. I've been at Buford for 15 years, and one thing he always talks about at parents' meetings is he's never had but one time he's got to be called in for any of our parents, and he hadn't, because I take care of most of my problems there. I've had one time when I was telling you about that crazy player that I had, it was my fault. I had to deal with her parents, but I dealt with it by myself and with a principal. A good idea that I don't know, I stole this from our football team when we got here, is we've developed a mom's hoop group. And so we have a mom's hoop group that we set up at the beginning of the season. And we have them, so different things that we need during the year that I don't need for me and my staff to get done, we have that set up for them to take care of, whether it's meals for the JV when they're leaving, whether it's locker decorations, whether it's our senior meal for us on senior night. Our mom's hoop group has been a good situation that we put moms in charge of that and give them a little bit of responsibilities that they can take care of. So, like I said, there's no secret to it, because also I know this. We got a big time community here that people is so close knit in a community. Some environments don't allow you to do things with parents as well as others do. So you really got to look at what kind of environment you have in your program before you kind of see what parent involvement you can have. So, I think that's a big thing in it too. But we try to make sure that, like I said, we do a lot of things, and we keep our parents at a distance, because you can't let them have, control of your program. Like Melvin says, I don't have any problem with parents coming and watching me, practice. But our parents have been told expectations at our parents meeting. If you walk in our practice, you better not make a sound, or it's a classroom. You can sit up there and watch. You can do whatever you want to, but you're not going to disturb anything. So, like I said, I think clear expectations and knowing your culture and knowing how you fit in and what your role is, just like with players, is very, very important.
I'd like to say something about dealing with parents. What Melvin said earlier, it kind of changes year by year with the team. I had a great team a few years ago that I would never do some of the things that I'm doing now with this group, because they were just a pain in the ass as in a whole group, but you had to deal with them, and I'm one that keeps them away. I do not allow them in practice. But something that I picked up, and this is an idea, somebody, you might like this. I got this off Twitter, off of some team. I don't even know who the heck it was. But I really love this group of girls I've had the last 3 years. And the parents, for the most part, have been really supportive. And so what I started to do, I did it last year and I did it this year. I did it last year and I almost didn't do it this year. And then parents complained, is I pick one of our Saturday practices and we have a parent-player practice. And the parents have to sign up. We have a form that they don't hold us liable if they drop dead of a heart attack. They just, they got to sign that form. I have my assistant out there signing the form. And I'm telling you, it has been great as far as, first off, I get some of my stuff done with my players, but I let the parents participate in everything that they can do. Like at the beginning when we're stretching, shooting drills, we'll set up shoot away and we'll have 6 different stations, and the parents are with their kids and another kid shooting. And then at the end we do scrimmaging against the parents. I usually divide my team into 3 groups. And then, my team never plays zone. We press man-to-man the whole game. But against the parents, they have to play a zone. They're not allowed to go out and attack. And the parents can do whatever they want. And the kids have a great time. I got the moms who can't play a lick, dribbling the ball down the court, double dribbling, calling out plays that they hear us calling during the season, but they don't know what the hell it is. But it has been a great thing. And I don't think I could have done this with my other set of parents, but I wish I had thought of it earlier when I did have a good group of kids, a good group of parents, because the parents loved it. And I put it off this year, and they bugged me about it. So we waited all the way till I think close to February, the end of January, to do it. I had to pick an easy game that we were going to have the next week, so I wouldn't really need that Saturday practice. But just the camaraderie and the fun and them seeing what their kids go through a little bit has been a great experience, and it's something I wish I had done earlier.
Larry, did you say you do that once a year or once a season? Is that what it is?
Yeah, once a season. And I'd prefer to do it earlier, but we had such tough games, I just couldn't find a week to do it. And then, I put it off, and then the parents kept bugging me, and I'd get a sign-up list, and we've always had 15 to 20 parents participate. And it is really, it's good because, like, I'll have them shoot around while the players work 5 minutes on one thing that is a really hard thing that they do, so the parents can see what they're doing. But then most of the things we're doing together, I almost run it like a little camp. We have, dribble, taking it away from the dribbling between the kids and the parents, and they're playing. We might even play a game of knockout. But the parents love it and the kids love it. It's really pretty cool.
Larry, one thing I want to ask you guys if you think this idea makes sense or not. One thing I thought about doing for next year was having a practice on a Saturday or whenever where, as mandatory as possible, but really encourage all the parents to be there. And I want to give them a practice plan, and I want to practice a normal practice. Just do an hour and a half, but I want them to see what actually goes on. And I want to coach and do everything just like normal, but I want them to see the practice plan and see, because a lot of our parents, and you all know this, like, they don't know what they don't know. And I want them to see how much detail is in what we're doing. And I want them to see what happens in a 90-minute practice, which you guys all know is what we base playing time off of, is what we base, that's what makes us win, is what we can do when no one else is watching. So do you guys think that would be something that you think would be beneficial?
I definitely do.
Too.
I actually had a kid this year who actually one of our better players. And, Dad had a lot to say and had a lot of opinions. So myself and one of my coaches, we actually went to their house and we watched film with them, with the kid and the 2 parents. And we kind of talked through like our what we were thinking, what we're supposed to get out of certain sets, or what the players should be doing here. And I think it actually helped. She's one of our better kids, but like just in that film session, like I think they realize that there's a lot that they don't know, and they don't know that, like, what we're doing. For example, the kid's dad was like, well, why didn't you play box of one, or wanted to know like why we did what we were doing against the defense. And I was like, listen, like we haven't even taught a box of one offense yet. Like we were not there, as a team and in our evolution with that group. We're so young. Like box of one, shit, I can't even get them to freaking run a screen right. You know what I mean? Like, so, they don't understand that. Like, dude, we haven't even taught that yet. So when a team throws that at us right now, like, no, we can't handle that. And we're prepared for it. So, but I think the film session with the parents and the kid, and then myself and my assistant coach, like we drove over to their house, watched it at their house, so it was definitely very helpful. And I'm not opposed to anything like that. They need to be educated as much as the kids do.
Good idea.
Coach Dudley, one of the things that you just said, man, like we talk about this all the time, man. And like I always tell my kids, and we have this saying in our program, and we it's a phrase we call it kitchen table talk. And like I tell them all the time, like, yo, don't let kitchen table talk get your ass on the bench. Because like the one thing that we know is that parents don't know what they don't know. And they have no clue what we're trying to do. They have no clue what our philosophy is. They have no clue how we want to play this ball screen or how we design to guard this kid against this team. And so that's one of the reasons why I do allow them to come into practice, so that they can see the stuff that we're teaching, so they can see the stuff that we're implementing, that this is how we're holding them accountable for this, or this is what we said. And I've had parents, I have a freshman kid who's going to be pretty good, man. And her dad he was a youth football coach, and he coached some JV football. So he's very, very supportive, but he is very, very vocal, and he lets me do my thing, but he holds on her. And like I can hear him in the stands sometime, and you know, she may make a mistake, or she may play a ball screen the wrong way, and I can hear him in the stands yelling, "Damani, you're supposed to turn it back the other way. You're supposed to hedge out on that. Y'all just went over it in practice." And you know, and things like that. So I try to educate the parents as much as I can about and I charge them to say, hey, this is what we're holding your kids accountable for. Like, we need you to echo the things that we're saying, the things that we're teaching. If you see them not playing hard, you should be offended by that too, because they're wasting your time, they're wasting your money, they're wasting, you know, all the resources that you're putting into their basketball future. If they're not playing hard, hold them accountable. But we talk about that with our kids, man, that kitchen table talk, because it just takes one time for you to be at home eating dinner and, you know, a parent say, well, I don't know why he let her shoot as much as she does. And, you know, you don't shoot that much. Why you don't shoot that much? And, you know, the kids will let that sink in. And next thing you know, you in the next game and you got a kid coming off the bench that ain't shot a three all season. All of a sudden, she want to jack up 3-corner threes. And so me and my coaches are looking at each other right then, and we already know, oh, that's kitchen table talk. Somebody done said something.
Yeah.
Mike, I left one thing out that I thought was really, really important, and I'm sorry. I didn't mention this earlier, but Coach Mayo kind of talked about this a little bit earlier. But I really think to win parents over in your program, because, you know, I know y'all were talking about parents change year after year, you know, and I truly agree with that. But also the way we expect our players to adapt to our culture, I think you got to also expect your parents to adapt to your culture also, no matter which year it is or you know, year in, year out. But I think one of the biggest things I think you got to do is you've got to show parents that your program is a lot more than just basketball, that it's got to be about preparing those kids for life, and that you're investing in them outside of basketball, because I think that clears up a lot of whether parents support you or not. It's hard for them to go against you when you're really and truly trying to make them better people, and in your program trying to make them better people. And I think that's a big key, is getting that part of your program aligned to really be that situation, that it's not fake. It's about really preparing your daughter, not for just this games, but a game of life. And I heard Coach, one of the younger coaches, talk earlier. I bet I've had 3 times since I've been at Buford where we had a big number of seniors that I just brought those seniors in and said, you're not playing. There's no way you can play. We got to prepare some younger kids and all that. And those kids were bought into still being a part of our program, and their parents were too, because our program was so important for them just to be a part of. But I think if you don't have that piece of that element in your program, you're missing a huge thing on keeping parent support for you.
I think that an important part oftentimes is prior players and their roles and how they grow. We've been lucky in the last 4 years to have kids who have not been starters, who have turned into starters as seniors. And so younger kids and parents of those kids can see that if you continue to work in a good program, oftentimes right now is not your turn because there's someone better in front of you. Mm-hmm. And once you grow into that role, then you will get your opportunity to shine. Our best player didn't shine the first 2 years because you had better players in front of her. And then it became her time. Our point guard, who I think was the best point guard in our division, grew into that role. She was not that player as a sophomore. She was as a junior and a senior. So just parents being able to see that there is a bright spot at the end of, at the end there's a little bit of turmoil. Your kids have to learn to do that. I think also sharing roles with parents early on and letting them know what you see their role being, and that role can change. But their practice, like for me, I would just say we're the number one team in the state, and you're practicing against us every day. If you shine in practice, you'll get your opportunity to play in games. But your games happen every day of practice, and that's where you show me that you can play. And then when they do have those days, you do reward them, and that's going to come up and down all year depending on how they practice. But I think being forefront with parents and keeping them involved in roles is huge. Having a relationship with parents are huge because parents are our biggest tattletales. They'll tell you, it's Susie's mom is a little upset because Susie hasn't been playing. Well, I can have a conversation with Susie's mom and say, what's happening with Susie? She's been practicing really rough. Has something been wrong? She's having a hard time in class, a hard time at home. What are you seeing? And something that parent is a part of the solution and not somebody behind poking things. So finding ways to get them to be part of solutions and be a part of the support group and not tearing things down from behind the scenes.
Anybody else got anything? Just want to end on this and then we can get out of here. Does anybody have a really good fundraiser?
Camps. Listen, when I first started at Woodbridge, we've had camps every summer for like the last 8 years. But when I started there, my camps are open for 5-year-olds to 14, and we keep them all day, like damn near like daycare. And we started out really cheap, and it was like $80, right? We were there all day long, but we slowly, got more expensive over the course of the years, and all of our girls had to work. So it was mandatory that they work the camps because they knew it was a fundraiser, and it was always something big. Like we were able to send our team to Florida for free. We went to the Bahamas. We paid for everything except for their flights. Like in the time that I was at Woodbridge through our camps, we raised, like thousands of dollars, thousands. But listen, it's a lot of work. But if you do it right, and honestly, I think if you can do it all day, that was appealing to people. So even though it wasn't expensive, we got a lot of kids to come. So our camps would be like 100 kids deep, and we would do, and it was more like, games. Like we would break them up into teams. They would work with one of the girls on the team as their coach for the whole week, and then they would compete, and it just became really fun. And we got kids coming back year after year after year after year. So we did it for 8 years, and we raised a ton of money. And that, honestly, that was our best money maker. I'm sure some of y'all do camps too, but I don't think anything beats it.
Yeah, I would echo that. Camps have been our biggest fundraiser too. So that puts us in sort of a tough position right now because it doesn't look like we're going to be able to have one this summer. And that's we do some small fundraisers, but yeah, that's been our biggest thing and sort of builds some camaraderie for our girls and our kids in our community. So I think that's been our biggest money maker, but also sort of helped to get our program going a little bit.
We don't do camps.
I run a Thanksgiving event I run the Thanksgiving event every Friday and Saturday after Thanksgiving, man, and you know, try to get some of the better teams in the state and some teams out of South Carolina and the neighboring states. It's hard to get you Virginia teams down there because y'all can't play till like the start of December. But so I mean, we get that. We don't charge an entry fee. Of course, when you get in some of the better teams, man, you know they bring in some of the better players in the state. Get college coaches in. You know they're used to paying crazy prices for packets during the summer. Don't charge them a bunch. Charge them about $40, $50 to come in, putting a packet together for them with all the rosters and the information and stuff like that. And man, we usually do pretty good. I mean, we can. I think last year, we cleared about, I want to say 55,000 on that with entry, college money, and concessions. So that and us and our boys program do a golf tournament together in the spring, and we make a good amount on that, and we split that 50-50 down the middle. So that's kind of what's been floating our program for the past few years.
And Franklin, before you go, because I know you got some good stuff. I think I've told most of you guys, but what we're doing on September 19th here is because it doesn't look like there's going to be a summer like normal, is we're doing what we're trying to call the Best of Virginia, and we're trying to get the best high school teams that we can to come do a one-day. And college-wise, I've had a really good, like Louisville says they're going to come already. Stanford says they're going to come already. Virginia Tech, all the schools that are recruiting our kids. So, like, I'm up to, like, 23 teams that say they're interested, and I'm up to about 20 Division I colleges that say they want to come. So I know most of you I hit up and already brought that to you, but if I didn't and if I missed you, just be thinking about it. We are trying to cater it to people that have legit Division I, Division II, Division like college kids. But if that's something that you're interested in, if things let us do it in September, it does look like it's going to come. And that's a model I kind of stole from Mel. But Franklin, go ahead.
We actually do the easiest fundraisers that you could possibly think of. And that is we do 4 fish fries in the summertime. And this fish fry is all done by my parents who love it. I mean, they eat this thing up. And then the fish fry turns into the battle of the DJs because 2 of the parents have all their music set up and they have tents set up in this parking lot by school. The girls are out on Airport Drive and 9 Mile, the 2 big roads in Holland Springs with signs, and everybody's coming in there. It's supposed to go from 9 in the morning till 5. And I think the last 2 years we've been lucky if we pulled out of the parking lot at midnight. And we get everything that we need raised, paid for. The whole goal is to get everything for the girls: shoes, travel suits, backpacks, meals for the road, everything for the season paid for. And it is the most fun. You see the opposite side of your parents that you just sit back, die laugh, and it's crazy. And the neighborhood comes in there, and people will just donate money without buying anything. But we sell out of food every time we do it, and it's a great fundraiser. But it is actually the most fun that I have. I look forward to these more than anything, and I can just sit back and flip flops all day long and just die laugh at parents.
I tell you one that we did back at my other school. We did a $10,000 giveaway, and what we did was we had to do it with the boys program, and we would only sell 200 $100 tickets. And I know you go $100 tickets. You get 4 people to go in for $25, 10 people to go in for $10, whatever. But we would sell 200 tickets that would raise $20,000. So what we would do then is we'd have a reverse drawing. So we'd start out, we wouldn't just draw it out, we'd start out at the bottom and we'd draw out all the numbers. And basically to the last 3 basically you had a $1,000 prize, a $2,000 prize, and a $7,000 prize. And then on the drawing, reverse drawing, like on the 200 ticket out, the 150 ticket out, the 175 going on down to 100, you would draw those tickets out, and if the people wanted to get their $100 back, you give it back or you'd put it back in. So it was a really good fundraiser. Like Franklin was talking about, people had a great time. We'd come in, have pizza, Cokes, do a reverse drawing, and after it built every year, you'd think it was hard to sell the tickets, but it wasn't. We'd have people wanting tickets, so we'd be sold out of them. We'd get the boys 100 to sell and the girls 100 to sell, and we'd each split $5,000. So it was a pretty good fundraiser and everything else.
Y'all gonna laugh at this because this is totally opposite of like what I came from Woodbridge where we had to do a ton of fundraising, but like at Sidwell now, like we're not even allowed to do some fundraising. Like honestly, the parents could just stroke a check for $10,000 and be like, here you go, and they actually will not allow parents to do that. And so like it's crazy there. Like it's totally opposite. I'm not allowed to do any fundraising. If we do, we can keep like $1,500, something really small. Go ahead.
But Tamika, how do they feel about your parents writing a check to my program?
I'm guessing. Listen, they probably can do that too. Probably a tax write-off for them. But literally, I had like one of my parents is David Gregory, who's a CNN political analyst, and so his wife was. We wanted something this year. I came in, and you wouldn't believe it. Like this school, like the uniforms and stuff, like the practice gear and stuff is terrible. It was like horrible. I'm like, this is crazy. And so his wife is Beth Wilkerson, who's like a powerful female attorney in DC or whatever. Anyway, long story short. So I guess she said something to David. So David goes into our AD and starts making a fuss about it. Like, they need this. And what is it? $5,000. I'll write a check. And he was like, no, you can't do that. So, I mean, it's totally the opposite where I was killing myself raising money at Woodbridge. Now at Sidwell, it's like, I can't do anything.
I don't know if everybody's going to feel this, but like, I just think that with what we're going through right now, funds is going to be really, really tough for the upcoming years, man, because a lot of people that you've been depending on and everything else like we have in the community, either business is shut down or not going to have the money to have business, all that. So I'm telling you, we're probably going to all be trying to look at some different ways to make funds.
Oh, it is. We're not going to feel it now. Wait till next year.
Oh, that's exactly right. It's going to be.
Wait till next year.
One of the conversations I plan on having with my kids pretty soon is, hey, we all got to make sacrifices, and one of ours is going to be gear.
Absolutely.
I don't plan on getting you all that gear next year.
Oh, yeah.
You just be happy that we have a normal life right now, that we're getting to play ball. You shouldn't expect that you're going to get 30 because that's like I always want to give gear, but that's not a need. I mean, that's not a necessary thing. That's something you want. And we'll get a sweatshirt and we'll have something, but we're really going to cut back next year on the gear because we got to anticipate that the fundraising is not going to be there, that the school money is not going to be there. We need to be blessed to be playing, and the goal for our program's always been to get better as a person, to win championships and play in college. We don't need nice sweatshirts and jumpsuits to do any of that crap. So we're going to be blessed to be playing, and I'm going to tell my kids, if you don't like that, we got to reevaluate.
Yeah, I think especially if football doesn't occur, you're not going to have there's not going to be money to go around. I know around here, all uniform orders and all that stuff is all on hold until we find out what's going to happen. As far as fundraising things that we do, I'll be real quick with this, but election day, we usually have 2 days off, like Monday, Tuesday. We hold camps on all those days. We hold basketball camps on every day that we're out of school. And that's for like kindergarten through 8th through 7th grade. And we make a killing off of that because parents need a place for their kids to go on those days. So it's like usually if it's 1 day, we only charge like $30. If it's 2 days, we charge $50. But we make all the money we need to do in that to buy all of our shoes and warm up and that type of stuff. We did steal an idea from Mike. I think Mike gave me this. We sold $325 tickets this year for our rings, and we gave out prizes. I think 200, 150, 100, and two $50 ones. We got a lot of people who donated meals at restaurants, rounds of golf, that type of thing. And we ended up clearing $7,000 off of that. And people only had to sell 20 tickets a piece. And it was like that. No, it wasn't hard. It was easy. We did the drawing. I think two people, the $200 one came back and the $150 one came back. We made a pile of money off of that. And we did it in a week and a half.
I'm glad it worked. Hopefully we can make $7,000 when we do it.
And to piggyback off of Chris, I do that as well. But we do gift cards. We raffle off 2 gift cards at our banquet, and usually it's one has to do with like wine or something, and then the other is like Amazon. And I think last year we raised like $3,500. Each girl is responsible for like $75. Each ticket is $5 or $10, and they sell 6 or 7 of them. And then we get them the $100 gift card, and then we keep the rest of it. So it's just the 30 girls in my program. And then last year we cleared a little over $3,000.
That's awesome.
And man, sometimes with fundraising, being where we're at, we've got, a bunch of like local businesses and food places and stuff. We just ask for money. But we don't ask for the money, we ask for itemized products. So let's say if I know, like, all right, cool, like these are the sweatsuits that we want here. Like I'll reach out to Novant Health, which is like a health provider. And I mean, all of these companies have community outreach programs where they've got to give a certain amount of money for tax write-offs and stuff like that. I mean, it's just knowing where you can go get it at. Novant Health has been giving us in product probably about $2,500 for the last 4 seasons. And so I'll just say, I'll reach out, write a letter, ask them. And then of course, and somebody will reply and ask like, okay, well, coach, what do you guys need? And so then whatever it is that we need, I'll say, hey, it's gear or I don't ask for stuff that we'll take care of small stuff, basketballs and stuff like that. But I know 2 years ago, we wanted a second gun. So they went in, they gave us half to get a Dr. Dish. So I mean, we asked for it. Restaurants, we'll ask for them to cover a certain amount of post-game meals. And of course they'll do like to-go box orders or catering or however it is. Because like I said, man, they're there to serve the community. And I mean, they'll be more than willing to give their goods and services to accommodate you.
I've got one last question. It's totally off topic. Gene, I am watching film, all the films you sent me. One question how many players do you carry, Gene?
Last year's team, we had 18.
I was watching, I counted like 20 times. I was like, damn, they ain't got but 15 spots in the damn scorebook.
Well, we're not that good, so we have to carry a bunch of players.
That's the biggest line of bullshit I've heard since the pandemic.
I kept counting. I was like, I just kept on counting. I'm like, I know I ain't good at math, but damn, I can count that.
Do you get any like backlash for keeping that many players?
No, we had a bunch of younger kids and that we needed to develop. So like I said, we had a lot of them that was on there. We always carry a good number anyway, but like I said, we had a bunch of younger kids that needed to be on there too. So, that's one of the reasons why we carried that many. But
hey, one thing, Gene, and I don't know how many people know this, but in Georgia, they're starting to do flag football for girls now. That's an actual sport in Georgia. Has that happened with Buford yet? And have you seen, because it's the same time as girls basketball, and some people have complained about it taking numbers away.
We are not a part. It's in Gwinnett County Schools, which is, the biggest county, but we are a city school that's in Gwinnett County. So we do not have flag football, thank goodness, because it's caused
programs.
It's caused a lot of problems with a lot of basketball around. I don't know how y'all have it in Virginia, but especially around the Atlanta area and all that, numbers are dwindling. I mean, we got 7A schools. We got 7A schools in Georgia that's basically can't hardly field sub-varsity teams because they're going to other sports and going to other things, and so many things happening. So,
Do you have a JV team?
oh yeah, we don't have if we have a lot of freshmen, we do a freshman team, JV team, and varsity team. But most of the time, we have a JV team and a varsity team.
I know in North Carolina, JV girls basketball is dwindling crazy. In my conference, we're in a 4A conference, which is the biggest classification in North Carolina. And I want to say us and maybe 3 other schools have JV teams out of a conference of 8.
Yeah, girls basketball is in a little bit of trouble in some areas. I mean, I'm telling you, I think the numbers are dwindling. That's a whole nother discussion because there's a lot of factors, I feel like, but there's you see it kind of going down a lot in Georgia now.
Well, it's like, we talked a good bit today about how tough you have to be to play basketball.
Absolutely.
How many other girls sports are having that same discussion? Like, do how many coaches feel the same? Like, do volleyball coaches get together and say, man, our kids just aren't tough? Like, I don't know. I'm not a volleyball coach,
Right. I'm not speaking for like other areas, but like in our area, I'm sure this is the same everywhere. It's like certain schools are identified by certain programs, but like at our school, I think people will play volleyball because they know the demands are much less. They're out of the gym by 5 o'clock every day. Timeouts look like a damn dance party. It's fun. There's no pressure. I have a couple girls that will play volleyball because it's like the most relaxing sport they get to do their whole time. Basketball is hard. It's really, for us, we really focus on all fall, all winter, and we know AAU is going to kick in, but we're still going to have our open gyms and everything all spring. And it's really one of the few sports that we're asking year-round work at some point. We know that if you're playing another sport, you might just get to the gym here and there. But I think having those big expectations, plus I think you're seeing parents these days are putting kids in, this is my area again, that putting kids, it's like a competition, who's got the coolest car, who's got this, and then they're asking them to do more work, get a job, get this, and then they want to know why they're not getting better at basketball. You don't get better if you're not in the gym. But I think that's another thing that hurts us a little bit. It's because we have parents too that are thinking, why play high school ball when the coaches are only there in the summer?
I know down here in Richmond on my side of town, and since it came out, I wanted to ask Larry, I know Midlow, for example, but we've had volleyball at certain schools to just take over girls' programs. And they're treating it, I guess, kind of like how we treat basketball. You're only going to play volleyball. And there are some athletes, legit basketball players that are just now sticking to volleyball because they also are going full-time year-round, kind of like we do with our programs and we expect our players to be. I see it more, toward the Atlees and the Hanover, and I'm not sure on the south side, where Larry is over in Chesterfield. Sitting in some of the West End schools. So that's my fear, is that other schools will get to where their programs are going to be down to nothing, and basketball for the girls is going to be tough in a couple of years to get players out.
And you're getting a lot of facilities that are coming in. We just had a new big facility built, however many $1 million facility built with 4 floors. They're also putting in all winter long volleyball teams.
Mm-hmm.
So same exact thing, where volleyball players now have an opportunity to play a whole lot more year round. And you can see the effects happening, not so much with us, but you see it happening around our district.
I agree with what Franklin said. And Chris, I agree with what you said about schools are defined by certain programs. So for us, we're not going to have a problem with a varsity team. But even us, we struggle with JV teams because I have to make it very clear from the get-go that JV kids, and I know, Gene, I think you practice everybody together, but JV kids don't have to go through the same thing as varsity kids, because if I don't say that, I can't field a JV team.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so that's what I'm doing to field a JV team. And then we have other schools that are big schools, 2,000 students, that are struggling to even field a varsity team because of things like volleyball and soccer, and the girls have gone that direction. You know, so I do think girls basketball is in trouble at the high school level a little bit. I just don't know where it's going to go, though.
I think it's in trouble because the game has advanced so much that it's become intimidating for other girls to, and it's so hard to become good. In basketball, you have to be good at every aspect of the game in order to be competitive. And I don't take away from any other sports, because I think all sports are hard to play and be good at. But in soccer, you can hide your deficiencies on a big field if you're only on defense. In volleyball, which I think is hard, I can't play volleyball, but you're looking at a skill set that requires bump set, and if you're not someone who can jump high, you're really just kind of limited. So it's not in basketball. And from a girl's perspective, I think that's the part that is very different. I teach health and PE. You can start a basketball class and every boy will get out there and play good, bad, or indifferent because they just want to play. They're not focused on being – they'll even think they're LeBron, but they're not even Popeye. So it's like they're just so bad, but they're still going to compete, where girls are so detail-oriented that as soon as they don't have the ability to be successful, they're going to go a different route, and they're not going to make themselves vulnerable to be competitive. And it's really annoying because we're losing a lot of girls to that at a very, very young age. And I think a lot of that has to do with coaching. I think a lot of it has to do with the youth sports. I think you have a lot of people who get into coaching and they don't develop. And so as time goes on and their skill set, they get to a certain age where now it's required to be part of something and they don't have it, it's over and done with. And that's starting at a very, very young age. And I mean, you have people coaching second, third, and fourth grade girls, and they're running sets, but the kid can't dribble, the kid can't pass, the kid can't make a layup. So what the hell are you doing? And then it becomes about winning. And I think not having that true understanding of a difference between a male and a female at those younger ages is become extremely detrimental to girls in basketball, not any other sport, because they all want to play soccer, they all want to play volleyball and field hockey and lacrosse, but anything that really requires a different set of skill has deterred a lot of young girls from playing the game of basketball.
And I don't know what you guys think, but if you show up in ninth grade and you really can't dribble, pass, or shoot, or understand concepts, you have no chance of really being on a successful team. That's different in other sports. And it just is different, like Chris was saying. And I think the trick to it is, the perfect job for me is you're in a situation in a community where you get those kids like Gene, like Chris, in 4th, 5th, 6th grade. You build their skills and their relationship to where they choose basketball because it's fun, because they're successful. The key is they don't have success, so they run away from it because basketball. So if you can get them successful early, that's so key. So I'm like, a lot of people say, if you would ever leave PH, why would you do this? Because, where I'm at currently right now, it is hell to fight to try to get your hands on anything younger than the high school, because it's always worried about us and Fleming and us recruiting each other's kids. So we don't get to do the same things, and there's a lot of pushback. So it's just different. Hopefully the game lasts.
Mike, I was gonna say this too. I think it's not. I think it's also about getting the kids, like, selling the dream. Like, yo, this is something, a tool. Like, I know for me at Woodbridge, you know, a lot of the motivation for our kids was like, listen, you can get yourself to college this way. Like when I played, that was, someone told me that, and that's kind of like how I started, you know, my career and why, you know, I was able to focus on it. But I think getting the kids to believe they can do it is huge. I think that's even, I mean, at a young age, for them to see like this is something I can use as a tool to do all these amazing things, travel the world, have all these experiences. You know, I think that's huge. That's a big piece of it. Even more so than the skill right now. I mean, the first thing is to get them to believe that they can do it. Then skill stuff, that kind of stuff will come.
I think especially with females, you know, trying to get like Mike was just saying, trying to get a kid who maybe hasn't played a lot of basketball up until about the 8th grade or so, or the 9th grade, and trying to get them even into the gym to take a chance on their self because they're so concerned about image and not being able to do what the other kids do. So, you know, maybe presenting them opportunities in a gym by themselves or into a much smaller group of kids that aren't as skilled. Don't take a 9th grader sticking with the varsity right away. You know, put them in a situation where they're with the developmental group so that they don't feel threatened image-wise. It's just so tough. You know, same thing. You cut a girl in the 8th grade, you're probably never getting that girl back.
Right.
Cut a boy in the 8th grade, he's going to come back and get cut every single year, and he'll still be an open gym as a senior when basketball season ends. So I've had so many kids we've lost, you know, 6-footers in the 7th or 8th grade, and the coach cuts them, and they're like, well, no, that's not very good. And you're like, they're 6 foot. Give them the opportunity. They can't even walk yet. Give them the opportunity to grow. They need to be on a team. They need to drill. They need to be a part of it. It's just hard for girls. You know, they don't give themselves a second chance enough.
Mike, I think one of the things that was been mentioned earlier, we had a whole discussion on it. Think about the coaches here that's talking about how tough they are on kids and how they hold them accountable and how they do all those things. Bottom line comes down to a lot of this, and there's so many great examples, but basketball's hard. Okay. I mean, it's hard to play and it's hard to be successful in basketball. And so a lot of times kids will go to other programs where they don't have to work as hard. And one problem that we have here at Buford is a lot of kids don't want to go through the process. Chris talked about that earlier, but you know, a lot of our kids don't want to wait their turn and wait to come up through the ranks and do what they need to do. So guess what? Why should I go to Coach Durden's program and work my tail off and have to wait to a junior and senior when I can go to lacrosse or I can go to soccer and play right away? And so there's so many factors. I think Chris made another great point. How you handle your girls in your younger programs is so key, because if you cut a girl, they ain't coming back. They're going to something else and be successful with. So how your younger programs handle that is huge. But I think we really got to take a look at it, because it is really, I mean, I think girls basketball is in a lot more trouble than what people think it is.
Basketball is girls. Football is hard. Football, you're there in August 110 degrees. You're going 2 and 3 a days. You're working your ass off. It's not a lot of fun to practice. And for girls, that's what basketball is. We demand more from them than other sports do.
Yeah, I want to say one thing too, because Franklin and I deal with this here, is that it seems like in girls basketball, the haves and the have-nots are pretty clearly split for the teams. Whereas in boys, you know, guys are playing on the outdoor courts. You don't know what a lot of times coming up. So you see different boys teams sometimes that are up there, but on the girls side, you don't see that. So I know both Franklin and I, we have games that we could win by 60, 70 points. And you know, you're trying to not destroy the other girls, but you know, those teams are, and I'm telling you, that's a good many teams in this area that they're facing that day in and day out, and they just don't want to come back and play.
Yeah, Larry, you hit it right on the head. I think for both of us, it's one of the biggest challenges that we have to put up with, other than, you know, coaching itself, is when you play someone that is of lesser talent. And I learned this the hard way. I'll be the first to admit it. I'll raise my hand to it. I take it to heart now. When I play someone of lesser talent, I am not going to burn that program to where those girls do not want to play basketball. It's tough to do. Sometimes your players don't understand it. I don't know how many of y'all have to deal with this, but
we do.
I took this from Larry and Coach Waller at Byrd this past year. I took my JV players to a varsity game, made my varsity players sit in the stand, be cheerleaders, and my JV played a varsity team just for the fact that I did not burn that program. That's my sole fear around here with everyone, is seeing the numbers that are coming out for girls basketball. As good as my program has been, I almost did not have a JV team 2 years ago because the younger ones were like, man, I don't know if I can play at Holland Springs, but man, y'all lift weights and y'all run and blah, blah, blah. And
success is just as bad as losing sometimes.
yeah, it is.
Absolutely.
It is. And I can deal with these success side and in my program, but I am and please take this the right way. I'm not going to burn a program to set, so my girls can say, oh, well, we scored 100 and some points. No, I'm not doing that anymore. I have done that in the past. I'll be the first to admit it. But I understand it. I see it more now. I see the numbers. And that is my fear statewide and everywhere, is that the numbers are getting tougher on the girls' side. And I do not want this, I do not want high school girls basketball to go away, because this is my love. My wife will tell you that. She puts a pillar up every year. It's time for basketball, divorce season. And we've been married 30 some years, so she loves it. She understands it, but I will do everything I can to help anyone at any time, program wise, to get players out. But I have kind of mellowed on that. I will not burn another program, because it means more to these kids in the city school here in Richmond. Their self-esteem, some of them, don't even know who mom and dad is. Some of them definitely don't know who dad is. And basketball for some of these girls is the only extra that they get. And I'm like Gene, I just don't want to see it. I don't want to see it disappear. I don't want to see it go away. It is a way for these kids to get away, to get into college, to better themselves, to stay off the street. And I think this is one thing we really got to think about is, and we all do it, we all give back to this game because we love it, because it's given us more than we can ever give back. But we got to find a way to invest something in it to keep the younger ones, like Chris does, with his. But we got to find a way to give back to keep these younger ones enthused and want to play and want to come out. And if I preached, I'm sorry. I apologize.
Well, they probably won't let you in a church, so this is the only place you can.
Well, my father was a minister, so I got it from him.
Hey, I do want to say something in Virginia. And Gene, I don't know about you guys down there, but right now we have an area of the state, and I think most of you guys know what I'm talking about, in Virginia Beach area. Those teams sometimes I watched a team that's a rival of ours beat somebody 99-1. Now, I know you can let a team score more than 1 point. And I just don't understand it, but I see it all the time at the beach, whereas I don't see it nearly as much here or out west.
They all transfer.
Yeah, exactly.
They all transfer. They're all the talents on 2-3 teams.
Right.
Larry, the thing is, here's something in this for younger coaches too that we all know. Karma is out there for coaches. And let me tell you what, when people that do stuff like that, somewhere down the line, it will bite you somewhere down. And it may be, it may be that you're beating that team to death and your best player, because this is what people don't get. Frustration sets in with those kids and everything else. And guess what? One of them takes them out there and then they're hurt. And then guess what? You look pretty stupid. Right. So that, that's just a good lesson to learn is, just to have the right karma as a coach, because it will come back and get you sometime.
Hey guys, I want to, because we'll talk for hours still if we didn't stop it. I wanted to just get us a stopping point here. And, I always enjoy these every week. It's really one of the things I'm looking forward to. But I appreciate you guys coming on. And one thing I wanted to I want to ask you guys next week and want to give you a little heads up on is, because I'm getting married, I would love to be one of the topics be next week, how some of you balance your marriage and your relationships. That's because and I don't want to get into it now. Have a whole week to think about it. Because I'm going to tell you, and this is a true story just happened, somehow it's a slow news cycle, and me getting married made the news 2 nights ago. They did a whole story on it, on my wedding, and my wife was on there. And
I thought you set that joint up, yo. I seen that joint.
No, I didn't set that up. They just called me like we want to do it. Well,
when I seen it, I was like, look at Mike marketing his program, marketing himself.
But listen, it says, coach draws up his next play planning a wedding. And my fiance, I sent it to her, and then she calls me and goes, babe, that's a real sweet article, but I want to know what damn wedding is your ass planning? Because it's been me. So I would love to hear some of your thoughts because, you've all had different experiences in doing it. But, guys, again, I appreciate it. I gained so much of this, and I know hearing back from some of you guys, you enjoy it. I mean, you keep coming back, so obviously a lot of us enjoy it. So I can't wait till next week, and I appreciate all of you. I really do.
Same here.
Absolutely.
Thanks, everyone.
Enjoy it so much.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.